My #1 favorite hummingbird attracting plant is this beautiful blue flower that you see right here. This is known as Salvia black and blue. And a lot of research that is out there today, it is the #1 attracting plant. It is even better than the butterfly bush in attracting hummingbirds. You know, we'll come out in the patio at my parents' house here, and there'll be as many as a dozen hummingbirds all over these salvia. The hard thing is to find it in the spring. It is a tender plant. It's a plant that's native to Argentina. It's a zone 10 plant. It really doesn't like temperatures below 25 degrees, and sometimes they'll freeze out during the winter months if they're out in your garden. But in the spring, when I'm looking for this plant, I sometimes see it, but it's in this little tiny pot, not as a big plant. It's well worthwhile saving this plant and overwintering it in a variety of ways to keep it so you have it next spring. One thing we might do in some of those areas where it doesn't get quite so cold, we'll take a bag of bark, pine bark, and we'll cover the whole plant once we cut it back in the fall. That's one way to save it. Another way to save it is to bring containers that are already filled with this plant in a protected area, or if you have it in a garden, you can dig it, put it in a pot, and overwinter it. As winter approaches, this is probably what you're going to normally see on some of your tender tropical plants. You know, even tropical hibiscus. They're going to start turning yellow. The leaves may fall. They're going to stop flowering. But this is a plant that I bought in June, and this is a new variety. It was called Amistad, which was sort of a lavender instead of a blue salvia black and blue. And this plant was $26. One of the problems was I had to wait to June to even find it. I really want to start out with a bigger plant earlier. So what you're going to do is come in here and shear it back. And once you've sheared it back to about 10 to 12 inches, you can then put it in the corner of your garage or in your basement. The key to storing this plant during the winter months is not to overwater it. And I'll sometimes take a blanket and put a blanket around it in the corner of the garage so it gets heat from the garage. Then you start out in end of April or May, you bring it back, you water it, and you start out with a well-established plant. I usually recommend pruning them back first so I can see where exactly to dig this clump. So I'm going to come in here and use a hand shears if you want. Makes it easy either way. And you're just going to come in and prune the branches just like this. And then at least you'll know where to exactly dig this. Lots of stems, lots of shoots. So next spring I'm going to start out with a huge plant. So just take your shovel and come in. And I usually recommend that you just cut around first. So I'm starting out with like a 3-gallon plant in the spring. You might lose a little soil, but here is your container. And if we just go right to putting this table here, just gently lift the plant. One thing you're going to notice on this plant is there's lots of shoots. 1, 2, 3. So it's a really huge plant. And what I'm going to do is set it just like that, ready to go. Store it where it won't get colder than 25, 26 degrees, and you'll have a beautiful plant in the spring. I'm Mark Viette. Join me next time in the garden.
For more garden tips, go to inthegardenradio.com.